Hello everyone and welcome to my coloring corner. Today is Collection Mania Monday and today we have our Faber Castell Pit Pens. I was asked to do something other than colored pencils. So because we're still in the F area, I figured we would do the Faber Castell Pit Pens and dust those off. Now, I have a large box of these Faber Castell Pit Pens. I have the wooden specialty box that has 90 different pens. They have the 60 brush pens, as well as the metallics and some fine liners, as well as some other finer fine liners, as well as the calligraphy pens. So it has a lot of different pens in it. I don't use these very often. I'm not really good with using them, um, but I do try, and we will be using them today. So let's see if we can make a big mess. Now, these are a multi-level pen, so there's multi different ones. Like for example, this one here, I'm going to switch you over to the close-up. This one here is a calligraphy pen, and it's the magenta 133. Now all of the extra pens are all the same colors that are in the 60 color set, so they are all the same. However, with the calligraphy pen, it's got a small chisel so that you can do calligraphy with it. Very nice little pen. There's the magenta in the calligraphy. There is this one here, which is walnut brown in the calligraphy, as well as two different blacks. Now, one black is the same with the calligraphy nib, and another one is this one here, which is a soft chisel. And what that means is it has a chisel, but it's a little bit longer, a little bit thinner, and it's softer, so it isn't as, it's a lot more flexible than the calligraphy pens. It also has some bullet nib metallics. So they've got metallic silver, gold, copper, red, blue, and green. And they all have a small bullet nib. It's not a large nib, but it is a good soft bullet, or small bullet nib. And they are a little bit stiff, so, but they're a good metallic. They also have the 0.3 millimeter fine liners, and there's multiple colors of this. This one's orange glaze. There's deep scarlet, middle purple pink, magenta, May green, cobalt green, Phthalo blue, and Indian, and Indiothrine. I can't say it properly, but they're a very small, fine tip pen, which is great for doing really small, fine details. There is also a little bit larger. These ones here come in threes, so there's three different ones of this one, which is the sanguine. There's a 3, 5, and a 7 in the sanguine, as well as in walnut brown. Don't know why those three are like that. And black as well has the small, medium, and fine tips. So it comes in this 3, 5, and 7 with those small little tiny fine liner tips. It also comes in black in A1, which is extra small, and this is the only one that has the extra small tip, which is a black, which is great for outlines and inking in your pictures. Black also comes with a soft brush, which is like the brush nib, but it's softer. It's a lot more flexible, a little bit longer. Very good brush for coloring in backgrounds and stuff like that in small areas. It also has a 1.5 bullet nib. So like the metallics, this is a bit of a bullet nib. This one here has a little bit more of a point than the metallics does, but it still works really good. Now, the Faber Castell Pit Pens are a India ink. So the ink on these, this one here, these ones here are the brush pen. The ink on these are, there's the brush pen. Now it's a stiff brush. It's not a really flexible brush like you will find on a Castle Arts or that sort of thing, Cali Arts, I mean, or anything like that, because those are alcohol ink. These are an India ink. The ink is lights. They have a light fast rating. They are also waterproof and that sort of thing, acid free. All of that information, of course, is on the side of the pen. So there's our light fast rating, the little star next, little asterisk next to the numbers. They are named and numbered in the entire set. So I'm going to actually move the set. I'll switch on over to the main camera here so you can get a good view of the entire thing all together. And then I'm going to actually move the set. So there's the whole set, and it comes in this wooden box. Let's see if I can close this up without knocking everything over. Ah! Okay, so you fell over. So I've rearranged everything and got it all back, I think, into positioning. This is the case that it comes in. It is quite large, as you can see. So it takes up the whole desk, so that's why we got to move it. So we're going to move it off the desk, and we're going to put it over here so that we can still access our pens. And we're going to talk about the swatch. Now this is the swatch out of the Ruby Charm Colors Big Book of Color Charts. This swatch chart was done before they took out certain colors. She does have it mentioned here that they are phasing those out. By the time my set was made and I had purchased it, they had phased those out. So all the ones that were phased out, I've actually put metallics in just to keep the swatch chart all nice and full. So it doesn't look like I'm missing some. So I've got the metallics in here as well as the regular colors. And I'm going to switch over to the close-up camera and hopefully we'll be able to see. There we go. Let's see if I can turn on the light and zoom you out a little bit because I think you're a little close. The things that happen when things fall over. So let's zoom you out so you can see a little bit better here. There we go. So this is the ivory, and this one here is one of the metallics. It's copper, and then light yellow. So we've got our yellows going into our chromes, our cadmiums, and that color sets. Really light orange here into our oranges, and then into our reds. Now, scarlet red is a little bit of an orangey red, and so is pale geranium lake or carmine red. It's just a little bit orange. And then we've got our deep scarlet, and then this one here is ruby, which is a metallic. And then we've got deep red, and then into our pinks, pink, carmine, magenta. This is also a metallic because it used to be magenta bright, but there's no magenta bright anymore. And then into our purples and pinks. Here we have another metallic because that was another one that was taken out. And into our blues, our light indigo, dark indigo, Indian threne. Indian threne is threne. I'm not sure how to say that one. The worst thing is I've probably said it a million times, and for some reason my brain will not let me say that word today. Then we have our cobalt blue, ultramarine, sky blue, phthalo blue, ice blue, cobalt turquoise, light cobalt turquoise, cobalt green, into our dark green, our dark phthalo greens, phthalo green, light phthalo green, and then into our other green colors. This one here is a chrome green opaque instead of oxide. I don't know where if the oxide is still there, but I wasn't able to find it. I think this one here is discontinued, and the chrome green opaque should have been down here. So this one here is actually metallic green opaque, and May green, earth greens, and then we've got our skin tones into our browns, and this one here is metallic gold, into our darker browns and our warm grays, and then into our cool grays and our black. So it's got a really good range of colors, and more than enough per color family to do a wonderful, wonderful picture, of course. So we have our picture here. This is what we did with the Faber Castell pencils. Sorry, my hair's in the way. This one here we did with the Faber Castell pencils. So we're going to do this one over here with the Faber Castell Pit Pens. So we need a couple of different colors. We need some ocean kind of blue green colors. So let's take a look here. So I think we need light cobalt, ice blue, and maybe cobalt green. So we need ice blue and let's see, light cobalt turquoise, and then cobalt green. So we've got these three for the water. Now with the Pitt Pens, I have found that sometimes going over with the different colors will change it quite a bit. So let's start with our darks first, and then we'll move on to our lights. Now, just like most watercolors and watercolor type pens, you do have to find the amount that you're putting down. You have to be very careful. You have to find the tolerances of the paper that you're using. They are very well pigmented, of course, and they do lay down quite nicely. But you can't go in circles, you can't go back and forth. You just have to gently move in the direction that you want it to flow. Not like a gel pen or anything like that, but in order to not have your paper pill and get that sort of problem with your paper, you may find that you have to just go in one direction as lightly as you can, and if that's not enough color, just gently go over without agitating the paper. If you agitate the paper too much, you're going to get a pilling effect like you do with most watercolor pens. I'm going to zoom you in so you can see what I'm doing here. Excuse me. All right. Let's try and get you centered there so you can see a little bit better. So when I go down into the deeper areas, I want the deeper areas to be a little bit darker. So I'm going to get the deeper areas coated a little bit more than those crest areas where the water crests. Now, as I was saying, if you go back and forth with any kind of water-based pen that isn't an alcohol base, you're going to end up with a pilling of the paper where it's getting too saturated and just starts coming apart. And unfortunately, the Pitt pens have that same problem. So even though it's not water-based, it's an ink base, which is still a liquid base, unlike alcohol ink where it dissipates. This doesn't dissipate, it dries. The alcohol in alcohol inks dissipates and the pigment dries, where this is just basically just pigment. So there is our cobalt green, which is our darkest green. Now this one here is light cobalt turquoise, which is our medium color. And I'm just going right into the same area where my darker green is. And just blending those together. Now I'm trying to stay in one direction and not to a point where I've saturated the page. Otherwise you're going to end up, like I said, with that pilling problem. Same with the lines. You know, when you color a page and you've gone back and forth, you can see the lines, the movement lines that you have added from going back and forth. This is the only way I have found that eliminates that that line, that movement. And I know it's a pen and I really don't need to turn it to keep it sharp. It's just a habit. And the deeper I go, the more room I'm leaving for that water to be light, because I'm going to go over it one more time with a different color with that ice blue, just to put in that light color. Okay, now we're going to go with the light blue. Now, unlike alcohol ink where the light blue or the light color will move the darker color out of the way, these don't work that way. It will combine with a darker color and change the color of it if you go over a darker color. But it doesn't bleed into it, doesn't move it out of the way. So it just doesn't work that way. which is fine. You just gotta remember that when you're coloring something that you want lighter, to make sure that you leave that area for that color. Like I said, you can dull down a color a little bit using a lighter color, but it's not going to completely move it out of the way. So if you want a dark color to be prominent, use it last. Because the light color will lighten up the darker colors. Alright, so there's our watercolors done. Now we want some browns for our ship. So I'm going to use raw umber and nope, I don't want sanguine. I want cinnamon. There we go. Pardon me. So I've got cinnamon here, and I'm going to put it down first because it's the light color, and I want the darker color to be on top so that you can see the shadows and that sort of thing. And I'm going right over top of the wave so that you can see the ship in the water. Just the shape of it. And I'm probably out of screen the whole time. Sorry guys. Alright. Now we want the shadow here and here. And if you find that you have put down too much dark, of course you can go over it with your light and change that color. Just make sure that you're really, really careful that you don't overload the paper with color. Because like I said, if you do that, you're going to end up with a pilled mess. Which kind of sucks. Okay, so I've added a little bit too much on this side, so I'm just going to take my lighter color and just go into it a bit and just spread it out. And that just wakes up that color a little bit, spreads it out so that it will dry a little bit lighter than that, of course. Okay, so there's our water and our base of our ship. So we're going to do our sails. So we're going to do our sails, this lovely color here. And this is a light indigo. So I'm just doing it this very light gray, almost gray blue color. And I'm going to do the whole sail, but I'm going to do a couple of layers on the different areas that are going to be shadowed. Because with this, the more layers you add, the darker it's going to be. So these are really good for those type of colorings where you're going to just use one pen or one color, because depending upon how many layers you put down is how dark that is. You know, so if I put 3 or 4 layers down, and of course you have to be really, really gentle so that you don't oversaturate the paper. But once that dries, the center area will be a little bit lighter than the rest of it. It's going to sit and show you a little bit darker when it's wet than when it is dry, but it's still going to be darker when it's dry. Alright, so there's our sails. Now our little flags, we're going to put this lovely red, and we've got deep scarlet red for our sails. And then we're going to do the sky blue for the sky. Now with large areas like this, just very, very gently touch the page and build up that color. Don't try to be too quick about it. Another way that you can do it, of course I'm going to have to turn the page so that I can do this, is with your entire pen. Just be careful doing it this way because you will get lines. Try to go in short little strokes and try to keep your movement constant. And you should be able to blend those lines in to each other. But as you can see, I've got too much ink here and it's starting to pill up, so just move away from it and move on. Try not to get too many variations in your color. And of course the variations are done by going over it in different areas too many times. So as long as you stay consistent, you can pretty much eliminate the effect of those lines. You just have to try to stay consistent. And now I'm not on screen. There we go. So I'm going to have to move you, sorry, over here. Try not to let that dry. Otherwise, like I said, you're going to end up with that breaking of your color and that dark line. Now, because this is such a small picture, it's not really going to make a huge difference, but I would not do a large area with breaking it, with stopping. So if you're doing a large area, try to stay moving with your color. Try to keep going all in the same direction so that you don't end up with major lines. And if you find that it's not dark enough, just go over it until it's to the right color that you want it to be. Just make sure that you give it a little bit of time to dry between coats so that you're not oversaturating that page. What I'm working on right now is 67-pound cardstock, so I have a little bit of give, not a whole lot, because even this pills up quite a bit. I was using a watercolor paper, really thick 300 GSM watercolor paper with them, and even it pilled up, so you have to be careful. Now once that dries, it won't look as pilly, but until that dries, it's going to have that effect. Now I want to take the cinnamon and I want to do the cork, and then I will go over that with the sky blue. Like that. And then we're going to take our cool gray, like this one, yeah, cool gray number 1, and we're going to fill in the clouds. Now this one I'm not too concerned about having things going in different directions because it's a cloud. Light goes in different directions through a cloud. There's always fluffies all over the clouds. Now normally I would do this in multiple colors, but I really kind of just wanted to keep this one, the simple colors that most people would color them. I'm not going to do a purple sky or anything like that. And then we're going to take cold gray number 2, I do believe. Let's see. Yeah, number 3. And we're just going to go through and give some dimension, some shadow to it. A little bit on the edges of the bottle here too. And as you can see, if you touch it to an area that is really wet, that path is open, so you end up with some bleed. So try to be careful when you're doing your colors. When you're overlaying your colors, make sure that you let that dry a little bit first if you don't want it to bleed. I kind of like the look of it, so I'm not worried about it. And there we have it. That is our Faber Castell Pit Pen demonstration. And like I said, they are a fantastic pen. I don't use them nearly enough, but I do want to start practicing with them a little bit more. And here is the small or the soft brush pen. And as you can see, it's really, really soft. It's very, very flexible. And it'll cover a lot really fast. And there we have it. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this video and the Faber Castell Pit Pens. Like I said, this one here is the Polychromos. This is the Faber Castell Polychromo colored pencils. And down here we have our Faber Castell Pit Pens. And they are a fantastic pen. And if used correctly, and there is a lot of practice required in using them correctly. I don't use them very well, and I have learned a lot about them since buying them. They do come in a 60 set. I would strongly suggest that you stick with just the 60 set. Don't go with the 90 set unless you draw yourself. If you are going to use the fine liners and that sort of thing, definitely buy the entire set. But if you're not going to use the fine liners and the calligraphy pens and the metallic pens and that sort of thing, I would definitely just start out with the Pitt Pen brush pens themselves and then move on to the other things if you decide that you like them or want them or whatnot. In my opinion, the Great Big Huge Wooden Box set is a little bit of a waste. There's not a lot in there that, like on the upper areas of the small brush pen, the fine liners, and that sort of thing, that I myself, as a colorist, not an artist, would use a whole lot of. The fine liners I use quite a bit of for detailing small areas. The Pitt pens work really good for that as well. But the really fine liners and the drawing pens, I don't use a whole lot of. So for people that draw and people that color with drawing and that sort of thing, those work really, really well for you. And I would definitely suggest buying the whole set at that point. But for coloring a really tiny little picture, they work wonderfully. And as you can see, you have a bit of a shadow, and like I said, you can definitely tell where I went through a little bit heavy on the ink, but it doesn't bleed through the same way that an alcohol ink will. All in all, I really like them. I really want to learn more on how to color with them and what paper is best for them and that sort of thing. I have a couple of different books that they work really, really well in, so I enjoy coloring with them in those. On regular paper and thinner cardstock, I find that they pill up the paper too much because I want to add more color and more color and more color. But I'm slowly learning how to use them and how best to work with them. So like I said, it's a learning process, and I'm starting to get there. Honest, I am. Um, and everybody else will as well. Like I said, it's learning is a gradual process that everybody does in their own way at their own pace. And I personally find that colored pencils are a lot easier to use and a lot more controllable than pens, so I don't use them a whole lot, but I really do enjoy using them when I do use them. Of course, I will leave a link in the description below on where you can find these Pitt pens on Amazon. Of course, they will be it will be an affiliate link, so I do receive a small commission for anything that you purchase after clicking the link. And everything you purchase does go, all of those commissions goes towards helping out the channel. So purchasing things for review, shipping and handling, and prizes, that sort of thing. So please use the links if you can. It's not mandatory, but if you can use them, please do. Like, comment, and subscribe. If you're not already a subscriber to the channel, hit that subscribe button, and of course remember to ring the bell. I do put out a video every day, so you know, except for Sunday. Sunday I have saved for special occasions and special interviews, stuff like that. And on Wednesday and Saturday I do do live colorings. On Wednesday, it's a work in progress Wednesday where we're just sitting there and coloring and chatting. And on Saturday, it's usually some sort of color along or a color and chat where I will tell you what colors I'm using so you can follow along on your own. If you want to hit the like button, it does help me out in understanding what kind of videos that you enjoy. Leave me a comment and that sort of thing. That'd be fantastic. I enjoy reading the comments and answering them. If you want to join us over on Facebook, just make sure that you fill out the application form so that we can get you into the Facebook group as quickly as possible. Other than that, guys, of course, remember to relax, color, and stay safe. Thank you all so much for watching. You guys have a fantastic day and a wonderful, wonderful week. Until tomorrow, bye-bye for now.